From our archives, the Billy Graham Classics.
When the quiet of night settles and the world hushes its ceaseless noise, there are whispers that travel farther than sound, whispers carried not by wind or wire, but by wings unseen. The angels speak, and they have brought a message. It is not a love letter sealed with perfumed ink, nor a fairy tale of endless sunshine. It is a call, a plea, a trembling voice written between the lines of fate, begging not for perfection, but for presence. Your soulmate's letter is here, but it does not read like a romance. It reads like a heartbeat in distress. The angels say it is filled with longing, not just for love, but for understanding. For someone to see beyond the armor of laughter, to feel the weight behind the silence, to notice that a soul, even one meant for yours, can wander lost in the dark. The first keynote reveals that the angel's message is not wrapped in the sweetness of fantasy or the glitter of effortless romance, but instead carries the weight of urgency, almost like a quiet cry echoing across the unseen world. When we think of messages about soulmates, our minds often race to visions of joy, serendipity, and fulfillment, but this message arrives differently. It is not promising perfection or immediate happiness. It is calling for presence, for attention, for the willingness to stand steady in a moment that might feel fragile or even uncomfortable. A plea, by its very nature, suggests vulnerability. It suggests that someone is reaching out not from a position of strength, but from a place of need. This is a vital truth to recognize, because love, especially the deep, soul-bonded kind, is not always a story of endless sunshine. Sometimes it is a storm that asks you to hold the umbrella for two. This keynote shifts our perspective from expecting to receive something from love toward being prepared to give something to it. If the angels have carried a letter on behalf of a soulmate, and if this letter is indeed a plea, then it is more than a simple declaration of feelings. It may not even say the words we expect, like I love you or I miss you. Instead, it may whisper things like I'm lost, I'm tired, or I can't carry this alone. Hearing such a plea requires maturity, empathy, and a willingness to set aside the dream of flawless romance in order to embrace the reality of deep human connection. It is tempting to imagine love as something that simply happens to us, something delivered like a gift. Yet when the angels deliver this letter, they are not placing a neatly wrapped present at your feet. They are placing responsibility there too. The responsibility to listen carefully, to interpret what is not plainly written, and to choose whether to answer the call. Presence is a powerful thing. It doesn't always mean having the right words or the perfect solution. Often it means showing up in silence, being steady when someone else shakes, and proving that love is not only about enjoying life's easy moments, but also about holding on when life feels unbearably heavy. The plea in this message might be subtle. It might come through in a dream, a strange sense of longing, or an intuition you cannot explain. It may not feel like a romantic thunderbolt, but more like a soft, insistent tug at your soul, as if someone out there is calling without sound. This is why the angels' involvement matters. They act as messengers when human voices fail, ensuring that such calls for help are not lost in the noise of everyday life. When they say your soulmate's letter is here, they are not talking about ink and paper. They are speaking of a spiritual correspondence, a kind of resonance that tells you that someone you are connected to at the deepest level needs you to be awake, alert, and ready to offer your presence. And presence is no small gift. It is greater than advice, greater than romance, even greater than words. When a soulmate pleads for presence, they are not looking for you to fix everything or perform miracles. They are asking you to stand with them in the shadows so they do not have to face the darkness alone. This kind of love requires courage because it moves beyond comfort and asks something of you. It asks you to step into another person's struggle and bring with you the light of steadfastness. It is not glamorous, but it is sacred. The keynote tells us that this moment, this plea, is as holy as any declaration of love could ever be. When someone calls for your presence, it is an invitation to practice the deepest form of love. A love that gives without measuring, a love that listens before speaking, a love that refuses to run when things grow difficult. If you can answer that plea, you not only meet their need, you also prove to yourself that love is not a fleeting feeling, but a living force. something that endures and grows stronger when tested. This is what the angels are trying to tell you. Your soulmate is not sending you a picture-perfect romance, but rather a raw, human, sacred cry for you to be there. The second keynote shows that a soulmate's need runs deeper than what we usually imagine when we think of romance. It is not simply about affection, flowers, or sweet words whispered in quiet moments. Instead, it is a yearning for something that touches the core of human existence, understanding. Love that remains on the surface can be pleasant, even exciting, but the bond between soulmates is meant to penetrate far below those layers. It is not satisfied with appearances or polite gestures. It seeks to be fully seen and fully known. When someone longs for understanding, they are not just asking to be loved for their best qualities or their moments of joy. They are asking to be loved through confusion, doubt, and imperfection. They are asking to be recognized even when they are not shining brightly, even when they themselves are unsure who they are becoming. This keynote reminds us that being truly known by another person is one of the rarest and most profound experiences in life. Affection alone can be given to many, but understanding is different. Understanding means that someone takes the time to listen without judgment, to look past the surface, to notice not only what is said, but also what is left unsaid. It is an active choice, not a passive feeling. When soulmates find each other, their love cannot remain shallow, because the connection demands more. It demands the courage to face one another honestly, to share wounds as well as dreams, and to trust that the other will not turn away. Imagine a person who feels unseen in a crowded world. They might have people around them who admire their smile, praise their achievements, or enjoy their company. But admiration is not the same as understanding. When the angels speak of a plea for help, it is as if that person is saying, I don't just want someone to love me when I am lovable. I need someone to know me when I am hidden, to hold on when I can barely hold myself. That need cannot be met by romance alone, because romance too often concerns itself with moments of beauty and ease. True understanding sits with someone even in moments of silence, pain, and uncertainty. This keynote also asks you to consider your own willingness to offer that depth. To meet a soulmate's need for understanding is not only to listen, but to let go of assumptions. It means putting aside the temptation to mold someone into what you wish them to be, and instead allowing them to reveal who they truly are. This is both humbling and transformative. It humbles you because it shows you that love is not about control or perfection. It transforms you because it teaches patience, empathy, and compassion on a level that few ever reach. When the angels describe this need, they are drawing attention to a truth many overlook. Being loved for how we appear is pleasant, but being understood for who we are is life-changing. A soulmate's plea may come not as a loud cry, but as a subtle ache. It may surface in moments when they grow quiet, withdraw from the world, or seem to carry a sadness they cannot name. Affection alone might tell you to cheer them up or distract them from their feelings. Understanding will tell you to sit beside them, ask nothing, and make it safe for them to be real. This is why the plea is sacred. It calls not for shallow comfort, but for deep presence. To answer this plea, you must be willing to look beyond your own desire for what love should feel like, and instead accept what love is asking you to give. Soulmates meet in a space where both are vulnerable, where both have edges and shadows. If one of them feels unseen, the bond suffers. If one of them is understood, however, even in their darkest hour, the bond becomes unbreakable. In meeting their need for understanding, you also allow yourself to be understood. Love, when it reaches this depth, stops being a dream and starts being a living force that strengthens both people. This keynote tells you that your soulmate's longing is not for romance's outward sparkle, but for the inward recognition that says, I see you even here, even now, and I will not turn away. The third keynote reveals that true connection means noticing what lies beneath the surface and paying attention to the hidden pain that someone may carry quietly. Grand gestures can be beautiful, but they are not the foundation of deep love. A soulmate's heart does not simply call for gifts, surprises, or words spoken in shining moments. Instead, it yearns to be seen in the quiet hours, in the spaces where pain is not announced, but whispered or even concealed altogether. Many people can celebrate your laughter, but only someone who is truly connected to you will sense the tremor in your voice when you say you are fine but do not mean it.
This keynote reminds us that love in its highest form is perceptive. It listens between the lines, observes the small details, and recognizes when someone is carrying a burden they cannot name. Often the deepest wounds are not shouted from rooftops, but hidden in the way a smile falters for just a second, or in the silence that lingers after the room has gone quiet. True connection does not require a person to explain their pain fully. It feels the pain intuitively and responds with care rather than curiosity or judgment.
In human relationships, it is easy to be distracted by the obvious. Big occasions, major events, dramatic expressions of affection. But soulmates are bound at a level where even the smallest signals matter. A single sigh, a delay in answering, or a distant look in the eyes can speak volumes. To honor that connection is to pay attention to these subtle signs and offer steady support, even when no request for help has been spoken aloud. It is a willingness to hold space without demanding explanations, to be a safe presence rather than a problem solver. The angel's message in this keynote draws attention to the responsibility that comes with such a bond. If your soulmate is in pain, they may not always know how to tell you. They may not have the words, or they may fear being a burden. In those moments, your awareness becomes their refuge. By simply noticing and staying present, you communicate that their worth does not depend on how happy or strong they appear. You let them know they are loved for who they are, not for how well they perform the role of being fine. This kind of seeing goes beyond ordinary affection. Affection says, I love you when you are smiling. True connection says, I see you even when you cannot smile, and I love you there too. It is a profound shift from loving someone for what they give you to loving them for who they are, even in their most unguarded and imperfect moments. And when someone feels truly seen in this way, it can heal wounds that no words could ever reach. The keynote also challenges you to slow down and resist living only on the surface of life. Many relationships fail not because love is absent, but because attention is absent. People get caught up in their own thoughts, their own needs, their own distractions, and they miss the signals that someone close to them is silently struggling. Soulmate love cannot thrive on autopilot. It requires awareness, a kind of constant listening with both the heart and the eyes. When you notice hidden pain, it does not mean you must always have answers. In fact, trying too quickly to fix things can sometimes close off the very vulnerability that needs to be honored. What matters most is that you acknowledge what you sense and show that you care, not with dramatic speeches, but with gentle consistency. A quiet message that says, I see you, I'm here, you are not alone. This kind of presence builds trust so deep that even unspoken fears begin to soften in its warmth.
This keynote ultimately reveals that soulmates are called to see one another fully, not only in times of joy, but in times of shadow. To recognize unspoken hurt and to love someone there, without conditions or demands, is the purest act of connection. It transforms love from something fleeting and decorative into something steady and sacred, a bond that holds firm even when everything else feels uncertain.
The fourth keynote reminds us that soulmates do not arrive flawless or complete, as if life had polished them into perfection before placing them on our path. They come as real people, carrying fears, scars, uncertainties, and the weight of their own past. This truth often surprises those who imagine a soulmate connection as effortless bliss. In reality, the bond is deep precisely because it asks for honesty rather than illusion. When you meet someone who is meant to share part of your soul's journey, you are not meeting a finished masterpiece. You are meeting a work in progress, someone still becoming who they are meant to be. This keynote challenges the dream of love as something that erases all imperfection. The angel's message suggests that a soulmate's humanity is not a flaw to be fixed, but a gift to be embraced. If they carry fears, those fears are an invitation to show patience. If they have cracks, Those cracks are places where light can enter and where love can grow stronger as it fills the gaps. It is easy to adore someone when they are confident and radiant. It is harder and far more meaningful to love them when they doubt themselves or stumble through life's uncertainty. When two souls are deeply connected, their imperfections do not repel each other. Instead, they create opportunities for compassion. Seeing a soulmate's human side allows you to drop your own mask as well. You realize you do not have to be flawless either, because real love is not a performance. It is a sanctuary where two imperfect people learn to walk together, each holding the other steady when the road turns rough. The plea for help carried by the angels reminds you that soulmates are not immune to struggle. In fact, the very depth of their connection often means they feel life more intensely. The joys, yes, but also the pains. Accepting a soulmate's humanity does not mean excusing harmful behavior or ignoring serious issues. It means understanding that vulnerability, fear, and even mistakes are part of being alive. Rather than demanding constant strength, you can offer support. Rather than expecting them to meet an impossible ideal, you can meet them where they are and walk forward together. In doing so, love becomes less about fantasy and more about partnership. Two souls learning, healing, and growing in unison. This keynote also serves as a reminder to release unrealistic expectations. Many people believe that when they meet their soulmate, everything will fall into place effortlessly, without misunderstandings or pain. But real love is not effortless. It is sacred work. It asks for grace, patience, and the courage to keep showing up even when things are not simple. A soulmate may carry wounds you cannot see at first. They may wrestle with fears they do not yet have words to explain. Loving them means creating a safe space for those fears to be named and faced, not brushed aside or hidden. In recognizing that your soulmate is imperfect and human, you also recognize that love itself is not about finding perfection. It is about building connection and trust strong enough to hold two imperfect lives together. That kind of bond is far more beautiful than any dream of flawless romance because it is real and it endures. When the angels say your soulmate's letter is a plea for help, they are asking you to see beyond the idealized image of love and into its living truth. That your presence, patience, and willingness to love someone in their vulnerability can be a source of profound healing for both of you. Ultimately, this keynote shows that love at its deepest level is not a fairy tale, but a shared journey. Your soulmate does not come to you fully healed or perfectly formed, and neither do you. You meet each other as human beings in need of understanding, compassion, and faith. By embracing that humanity instead of resisting it, you create a connection strong enough to withstand anything life places in your path. The fifth keynote shows that love is more than a feeling or a promise. It is an invitation to act, to show up, and to keep choosing someone even when it is difficult. This message from the angels is not about waiting for perfect timing or perfect words. It is about answering a call with presence and commitment. A soulmate's plea is not satisfied with occasional affection or fleeting moments of passion. It asks for a steady heart, a willingness to walk through uncertainty, and a courage that does not retreat when love costs something. Love becomes real when it moves beyond comfort and enters the realm of responsibility. To answer a soulmate's plea is not to sweep in as a savior, but to stand as a partner, shoulder to shoulder, offering strength without pride and tenderness, without condition. It is a choice to stay close, to keep showing up, even when emotions fluctuate or circumstances feel heavy. This keynote reminds you that true love is measured not by how you feel when everything is easy, but by how you respond when someone needs you most. An invitation carries weight because it requires a decision. You can decline it or accept it, but you cannot pretend it is not there. When the angels deliver this message, they are presenting an opportunity to grow into a deeper, more resilient kind of love. The plea may not sound dramatic. It may come as a quiet pull on your heart, or an inner knowing that someone you are connected to is longing for support. Answering that call is not about grand gestures or proving yourself worthy. It is about consistency, about offering your presence without needing to be asked twice. This keynote also reminds us that love's power is not one-sided. When you show up for someone in their moment of need, you do not only strengthen them, you also strengthen yourself. You discover that your own heart grows larger when you give without calculating the cost. You learn that real connection requires mutual trust, and that trust is built in these very moments of vulnerability. By answering their plea, you make the bond between you unbreakable, not because life will suddenly become easy, but because you both know that you can rely on each other even in difficulty. Showing up does not always mean solving every problem. It does not mean knowing the perfect words to say. More often, it means being steady and dependable when someone feels uncertain or fragile. Sometimes love speaks loudest not through promises or declarations, but through quiet actions, through staying when it would be easier to walk away, through listening when it would be easier to talk, through holding space when it would be easier to rush in with solutions. This steady presence reassures your soulmate that they are not alone, that they are valued not only for what they bring to your life, but for who they are, even in their weakest moments. Answering this invitation also changes how you see love itself. It shifts the focus from what you hope to receive to what you are willing to give. It shows that love is not about chasing constant happiness, but about building something that endures through both joy and sorrow. When you meet love at this depth, it ceases to be an emotion that comes and goes and becomes instead a decision, a practice, and a way of living. This is why the angels emphasize that the letter is a plea for help, because love is asking you not to dream but to act, not to wait for perfect conditions but to be faithful in imperfect ones. The fifth keynote ultimately teaches that soulmates are brought together not only to share joy, but to share burdens, to grow stronger by walking through trials side by side. The invitation to show up is a sacred call, and answering it does not just heal the one who pleads. It weaves two hearts together so firmly that no hardship can tear them apart, creating a love that is living, lasting, and unshakable.